Doubt is expensive. My point is that it's those doubts and cynicism that keep most people poor and playing it safe. The real world is simply waiting for you to get rich. Only a person's doubts keep them poor. As I said, getting out of the rat race is technically easy. It doesn't take much education. But those doubts are cripplers for most people. Hope you're all well. Hope you're having a great day. It is a little bit rainy, but we want to just get straight into the motivation and do some reading. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We have gotten quite far. Look at that. Unbelievable. So let's get straight into it so that you can start working on your goals, get to work, whatever it is that you need to do. I have very big goals. This year is very different for me, which is very exciting. So everything's been good, but up until now, I haven't played as big as I've always wanted to. So this year is going to be super. So let's do some reading. Let's get motivated, use it as things that we can implement into our lives, and then let's go out and achieve great things. So in another example, I hold a small portion of my assets in tax-lien certificates instead of CDs, certificates of deposits. I earn 16% per year on my money, which certainly beats the interest rates banks offer on certificates of deposits. The certificates are secured by real estate and enforced by state law. Let's quickly let Mladen into the Zoom. The certificates are secured by real estate and enforced by state law. I'll quickly pin myself. There we go. Which is also better than most banks. The formula they're brought on makes them safe. They just lack liquidity. So I look at them as 2 to 7 year certificates of deposits. Almost every time I tell someone that I hold my money this way, especially if they have money in CDs, they will tell me it's risky. They tell me why I should not do it. When I ask them where they get their information, they say from a friend or an investment magazine. They've never done it. And they're telling somebody who's doing it why they shouldn't. The lowest yield I look for is 16%, but people who are filled with doubt are willing to accept a far lower return. Doubt is expensive. It always amazes me that people will say that there's only one way you can make money or a different way, whereas things that people will tell you are risky, there are people who are making money doing exactly that. Things that people say are a scam, there are people who actually make money doing that. So yes, there are a couple of scams, but mainly everything has something that it brings because there are people who are successful with it. So rather than criticizing or rather than allowing yourself to be criticized, find out what works for you, what fits with your personality, what you feel comfortable with, what kind of return you want, and go out and do it. And learn from it and experience it. If you can play cash flow or do a simulation of it first, then that is always really good before you put real money into it and don't put your life savings into one thing. But play with it, experiment with it, and get out there and do it. And you will find out that most things actually do work if you put in the work and if you do it correctly. Some people will just go for something, not put in the time or the effort, and then think that it's a scam, but really they just haven't put in the time or the effort to figure it out or put in the hard work and sweat that it requires to be able to make it successful. Doubt is expensive. My point is that it's those doubts and cynicism that keep most people poor and playing it safe. The real world is simply waiting for you to get rich. Only a person's doubts keep them poor. As I said, getting out of the rat race is technically easy. It doesn't take much education, but those doubts are cripplers for most people. Cynics never win, said Rich Dad. Unchecked doubt and fear creates a cynic. Cynics criticize, and winners analyze, was another of his favorite sayings. Rich Dad explained that criticism blinded, while analysis opened eyes. Analysis allowed winners to see that critics were blind and to see opportunities that everyone else missed. And finding what people miss is key to any success. I think a lot of people who haven't taken the time to learn what they need to learn or haven't taken the time to become very serious about achieving their goals are a little bit like blind people walking around. Whereas those who've taken the time to study and learn and implement and practice and become better at something, walking around with eyes wide open, and they can see so many more things. So it's definitely important to learn, take the time to understand, not be too cynical, but look for the opportunity to take action on things that you might not understand. And when you start to understand it, you might see that it is actually possible and how it actually works. Real estate is a powerful investment tool for anyone seeking financial independence or freedom. It is a unique investment tool. Yet every time I mention real estate as a vehicle, I often hear, I don't want to fix toilets. That's what Peter Lynch calls noise. That's what my rich dad would say is the cynic talking. Someone who criticizes and does not analyze. Someone who lets their doubts and fears close their mind instead of open their eyes. So the interesting thing about this fixing the toilets thing is that there are plenty of real estate investors who do not have to fix toilets because there are ways around having to do this. And so rather than just looking at an example of somebody who isn't doing well, have a look at somebody who is doing well and how they do it and how they get around some of the challenges that you might think are there. And then rather than criticize it, you might be able to do something that is going to bring you great success rather than stay away from that. Because you could be cynical and critical about every single kind of investment. Holding physical gold is going to be challenging. There are vaults that you can keep your physical gold at. You don't have to keep it at home. It doesn't have to be a dangerous thing. But if you see something negative around it, it will prevent you from doing it in the first place. If you have this around everything, then you will never get started with investing. So have a talk to people who know what they're talking about, who are doing it, who are successful with it, and see what kind of solutions they have. And you would be able to implement the same solutions. And they're obviously successful. So they are achieving success with it. So then you can also, because for most things that I have seen, there are people who make money with it. And so if they are, then so can you. But if you don't put in the time, if you don't put in the effort, if you're not open to learning about it, if you're not willing to give it a go and then keep learning and ask people who are more successful after you've made the mistakes, or you learn from your own mistakes and you find a better way of doing it. If you don't do all of that, then of course it's not going to work. Of course you're going to feel as though it's a scam, as if somebody is just taking your money. But if there are people around you who are doing the same thing and they are making money and you're not, then it's probably not the mistake of, or it's not the fault of the investment itself. Then you have to look inwards, and it's probably going to be you who hasn't been open and who's not doing it the right way. But there are people making money. So that means that it is not a scam. It just means that you need to be open to do the work and to figure out how it works. And to be less cynical, because that will help as well. So when someone says, I don't want to fix toilets, I want to fire back, what makes you think I want to? They're saying a toilet is more important than what they want. I talk about freedom from the rat race, and they focus on toilets. That is the thought pattern that keeps most people poor. They criticize instead of analyze. Also with toilets, very quickly, since I'm thinking about it right now, imagine that you are buying property for the very, very first time. So maybe the income on that property is not enough to cover all of the expenses. So you might need to fix toilets for the first 2-3 months. But after that, let's say that you can increase the rent, or you manage to find some kind of savings, and now you can actually pay for somebody to manage the property, and you no longer have to fix those toilets. Even better, if you can make sure that you only find a deal that you can make enough money off of it that the expenses include property management, so that somebody else is looking after any challenges with that property. And now, instead of finding a deal that I've probably not thought through well enough because I have to do all of the work myself on that property, now I've taken a bit of time to get rid of that property and evaluate more properties until I find one that the income is high enough to be able to have property management included, and I still make a positive return on it. I still have a positive cash flow at the end of the month. Now I found a better deal. So again, it's not the investment that's risky. It's the investor who chooses the wrong one that doesn't help them get towards their goals. So let's say that my goal is I don't want to fix toilets. But if I buy a property that has insufficient income to cover the expense of property management, then of course I'm going to have to fix the toilet. But if I keep looking and I reject that property and I keep looking and I find a property with slightly higher income and it now has enough to be able to cover the expenses of property management, now I don't have to get the phone call in the middle of the night asking me to come and fix the toilet. I have found a solution to the challenge and I've achieved my goal because I've actually found what it is that I'm looking for. I have found the deal that is going to get me the goal that I wanted. It has a positive cash flow and I am able to get a property manager so I don't have to fix the toilets. This is a strange sentence. I don't want, hold the key to your success, Rich Dad would say. Because I too do not want to fix toilets. I shop hard for a property manager who does fix toilets. And by finding a great property manager who runs the houses or apartments, well, my cash flow goes up. But more importantly, a great property manager allows me to buy a lot more real estate since I don't have to fix toilets. Because if you have to fix toilets, there's only so many properties, or if you have to fix anything on all of those properties. Imagine you have 10 properties and all of a sudden you're doing more call outs to fix things at all of these properties than you have time to do everything else. So now you no longer have time to inspect new properties. You might still be working. You can't turn up when the people want. So then they complain and they don't want to be able to pay you the full amount of rent because they're not getting things fixed when it needs to be fixed. So you're going to have a ceiling, a limit to the number of properties that you can buy. But if you are able to get a property manager, then instead of having 10 and being run off your feet fixing things, now you can buy 20 properties and you're not run off your feet fixing things because somebody else is doing that for you. Finding a good manager is more important to me than the real estate. A great property manager often hears of great deals before real estate agents do, which makes them even more valuable because they work in the estate agencies very often, unless they're private. And if they're working in the estate agency, they will know about properties that are coming onto the market that haven't been put on the market yet, that you might be able to get access to before anybody else is allowed to bid on it. There's so many different wonderful things. But again, you need to make sure you have a good property manager because a bad property manager will mean that your tenants are not happy and it will actually cost you money as opposed to a good one who is going to make you money. That is what Rich Dad meant by, I don't want. Hold the key to your success. So you don't want to say, I don't want something. Find a solution around it. Don't say, I don't want this, and then let it hold you back. If you don't want something, find a way for it not to happen. And then you don't have that issue in the first place. And you don't allow something to hold you back from achieving what it is that you want to achieve. So if you don't want to fix toilets, well, then find a way to buy property without having to fix toilets. If you want to invest in the stock market, but you don't want to spend 5 hours every day analyzing companies, then find a way to invest in the stock market that requires less analysis. There are ways for doing all of these different things. If you want to own a business, but you are a bit worried about managing it because you don't have any management experience, then you need to buy a business, maybe pay a little bit more, but buy one that already has a good manager. But you still need to learn some things, because I used to know a restaurant owner who did not know how to manage. He lost 3 managers in one night because he was a little bit strict, and his personality clashed with everybody else's, and he didn't know how to close his till. So the remaining staff left because they realized that he had no idea what he was doing, and they didn't like that, because you don't want to work for somebody who has no clue. You want to work for somebody who hires a really good person, and then if that good person leaves, that the owner can still do something and knows at least the basics. Doesn't need to know everything, but knows the basics and shows some interest in the business. I know a lot of business owners who will just buy something and then just completely ignore it and know nothing about it at all. You don't have to work there, but to know the basics so that you at least look competent to your staff. The people who continue to say, I don't want to fix toilets, often deny themselves the use of this powerful investment vehicle. Toilets are more important than their freedom. In the stock market, I often hear people say, I don't want to lose money. But what makes them think I or anyone else likes losing money? They don't make money because they choose to not lose money. Instead of analyzing, they close their minds to another powerful investment vehicle, the stock market. I was riding with a friend past our neighborhood gas station, and he looked up and saw that the price of gas was going up, and thus the price of oil. My friend is a worrywart or a chicken little. To him, the sky is always falling, and it usually does. On him. When he got home, he showed me all the stats as to why the price of oil was going to go up over the next few years. Statistics I had never seen before, even though I already owned substantial shares of an existing oil company. With that information, I immediately began looking for and found a new, undervalued oil company that was about to find some oil deposits. My broker was excited about this new company, and I bought 15,000 shares for 65 cents per share. 3 months later, this same friend and I drove by the same gas station, and sure enough, the price per gallon had gone up nearly 15%. Again, the chicken little worried and complained. I smiled because a month earlier, that little oil company hit oil, and those 15,000 shares went up more than $3 per share since he had given me the tip. And the price of gas will continue to go up if what my friend says is true. And that $3 increase, well, $2.45 increase, it might have been more, but that $2 or more increase would very easily help Robert Kiyosaki pay for a lot more petrol at the higher price. So he doesn't have to worry about it, whereas his friend who's not investing knows that the price of petrol is going up and only complaining about the fact that it's taking more of his paycheck every single week when he drives somewhere. If most people understood how a stop worked in stock market investing, there would be more people investing to win instead of investing not to lose. A stop is simply a computer command that tells your stock automatically if the price begins to drop, helping to minimize your loss and maximize some gains. It's a great tool for those who are terrified of losing. So whenever I hear people focus on their I don't wants rather than what they do want, I know the noise in their head must be loud. Chicken Little has taken over their brain and is yelling, "The sky is falling and the toilets are breaking." So they avoid their don't wants, but they pay a huge price. They may never get what they want in life. Instead of analyzing, their inner Chicken Little closes their mind. Rich Dad gave me a way of looking at Chicken Little. Just do what Colonel Sanders said. Just do what Colonel Sanders did. At the age of 66, he lost his business and began to live on his Social Security check. It wasn't enough. He went around the country selling his recipe for fried chicken. He was turned down 1,009 times before someone said yes. And he went on to become a multimillionaire at an age when most people are quitting. He was a brave and tenacious man, Rich Dad said of Harlan Sanders. So when you're in doubt and feeling a little afraid, just do what Colonel Sanders did to his little chicken. He fried it. That's a great one to finish off on. So some really important lessons. I really enjoyed that one. I'm glad that we went through that and had to talk about the details of why Robert Kiyosaki says that it's the investor and not the investment that is dangerous.